universe is a crazy place in oh so many ways. Let's try to make some sense of it on Spiritfolk Saturdays.
Welcome to the weekly throwing intent-based podcast, Spiritfolk Saturdays. Today we're here to talk about episodes 80... Fuck me. God. Welcome to the weekly throwing intent-based podcast, Spiritfolk Saturdays. Today we're here to talk about episodes 98 and 99, part of the Everything is on Fire arc. I'm your host, Elfy, Spiller of Loneliness. I am the only person here today. I hope you're all willing to put up with that. Yeah. Everyone else is busy, or haven't caught up, or isn't feeling well, so it's just gonna be me. I'm even just recording in Audacity because the program I work with is usually recording in Skype, so I mean... This will be interesting because it will just be me rambling into the microphone for however long. It's like that one song in the Dr. Horrible sing-along blog commentary track, where Neil Patrick Harris is left in the audio booth and sings about how great he is, and then gets really sad and lonely. We'll even just call the episode that. This will be either me, myself, and I, or one-man show. I hope you're willing to put up with this. Alright, so... we have the unfortunate thing of we keep skipping episodes for various reasons, not recording for a week. Sometimes people aren't available. Last week it was just there wasn't enough to talk about, because it was just really the split-up episode and then one from there. But, so then it leads to such scenarios as such as this one, where I'm like, well, I don't want to have to be buried in a bunch of stuff to talk about next week, so I mean, might as well. Let's see. So we started with, 98, which was the group splitting up, the first half was. On the, quote, Stone of Chiron, who we'd later learn is the name of one of the Spiritfolk leaders that used to rule Honorant. In fact, the Lily Clan leader, which makes a lot of sense, as it used to be where the Lily Clan was. And of course, when they landed, for lack of better terminology, Narn's body was not there. And, they survived, so... I have several questions about that. This is going to be jumping around, sorry. I have several questions about that, namely, their voice changed, their manner of speech changed when they returned to fight with Ash and Horvin and Kier. Like, who did they align themselves with? It's, they had a very distinctive, like, even before that, when they were aligned with Gregor and with Colvin, Fury talked them out of committing more murder, and then they just kind of seemed kind of willing to go all out for it in this one. In 99, or the first half of 99, because the second half is not out at the time of this recording. They also... how do I describe this? The way they spoke changed. Like, when they introduced themselves earlier, they said, just, my name is Narn. I'm Azeth, or I am Azeth. And then they just did the maniacal laughter, which was, to be fair, actually adorable. And just slid into my name's Narn, and it just sounded really, off. We did some discussing in TI chat, is that brave theories included Thog, or, aligning with everybody at once when they teleported. So, evil laughter could be, Inians or something. The kind of raids they've got going on is Ashes, that kind of thing, but we don't really have any proof or explanation quite yet. For the first episode, episode title suggestions: Let's Split Up Gang, Divide by Zero, Draft Night, and Always Split the Party, Part 2, because if we hadn't used that title already, it would be perfect. Come on. Absolutely perfect. And I mean, it's a Scooby-Doo reference. I know I talk about Scooby-Doo all the time. It's a Scooby-Doo reference. If Raven was here, I'd be making fun of her for it. So, I mean, just, come on. Ash is basically like a raid leader. She's just alright, we need, this much DPS, this much support. You go here, you go here. I like the way they organize the parties, although I do feel as though switching up those orders would lead to some interesting things. I really want to see more of Marcus Horvin interaction. Or, I don't know, it went more or less what I was kind of expecting, although I was expecting someone to go with Colvin. Like, Kieran Colvin or something, and then... But I think it worked out pretty well, considering. Although that trade at the last second makes me wonder how much of the stuff that happens with Kier was, like, intentional, or how much of it was just, like, Jay, like, oh, I can do this really cool thing. Get people out of getting murdered, potentially. And Horvin is, like, continuing to be cool, and I don't know if adorable quite fits him. Horvin is just a neat dude. Like, he tries to be, this badass, and then just does things that make him seem like a dork. There's also, like, I really wanted to note this character progression because I rewatched the Shrouded Isles like 2 times in the last week, is that there's such a clear-cut difference between, like, clear-cut difference between, like, how Ash and Kier, like, have treated each other throughout time. Like, if you look back to when they kind of first met, Ash being all super mega aggressive and he's not my friend, I haven't even decided I like him yet, to, like, actively going out of her way to save his life when they were fighting Narn the first time and stuff like that. It's just really cute, really, really clear-cut character progression. I love it. I was good. If there were other people here, I would brainstorm this. But, like, what do we name the teams? There's, like, the trio of imps, the Three Musketeers, obviously. Colvin and the Imp, I think, just fits as a title. Team Colvin and the Imp, like Pinky and the Brain. What are we going to do tonight, Imp? The same thing we do every night. Colvin, look for the truth. I don't know. I'm rambling. Horvin, Ash and Kier is quite obviously Team Spirit Shenanigans for reasons I don't think I need to explain. I don't know what the other group would be. Like, you've got Gregor, Marcus, and Inian. Like, their initials don't even make up a cool name. Unless you want it to be like Team 3 DPS, but like even then, Gregor kinda doubles as a tank? I don't know. I don't know. That'd be a neat. I don't know. I'd like to hear suggestions if anyone has them. We have a comment system that no one uses. Come on, this is YouTube, or if you're on Tumblr, hello Tumblr. And of course, I rewatched some of the spell stream after the stuff with Narn, just for like, what do we know about them thus far? I don't even get to use the cool thing I had set up that, hopefully in the future. First off, Narn is the Winky Whale, and that makes me laugh, because I always forget how stupid that name is, and that led to a whole discussion about they're so tall. Are they secretly a leg whale if they are a whale because they have long legs? And somehow that made sense. I'm not sure, it's in my notes. And the thing I'm really, like, proud of myself for figuring out is that Narn took a horn from the Fox King, and what we know of this horn is that it was obviously in the Fox King's possession on the Shrouded Isles, which is why they were in the Shrouded Isles in the first place. It was the horn of an enemy of the Fox King, and that she has a very specific reason for wanting Narn to have it. Keeping that in mind, we found out in part 2 of 98 the different Spiritfolk deities that used to be part of Jinkala. And one of them was described, Chiron of Lilies, was described with ox-like horns, one of which was broken. So, is that the horn of Chiron? Why does Narn need this horn? What is it going to be used for? I'm thinking about the thing that Horvin mentioned about binding specific pieces of spirits. Is it what does the horn have to do with this? The Fox King also noted that, or the Fox King's, like, shadow noted that Narn has a very strong healing ability, which is probably related to the fact that they got pounded into dust and is just fine. So, I mean, yeah. So yeah, we also learned about the four Spiritfolk deities of Jinkala. We have Tenwi of Rust, a spirit whose statue is of obsidian with a trident and a cape. Mir of Gold, who is described as the hulking brute and a statue carved of gold. Chiron of Lilies, with an ox-like horns, kind of one horn broken. And if they were the old, like, were they how do I phrase this? were they Zeke's master? I believe that is implied, although it's weird to be describing them with ox-like horns when I went back and listened to it, and Zeke's master has, like, a snout, which always made me imagine kind of like a werewolf-ish thing. But I mean, a wolf with horns isn't, like, too out there. But, like, Zeke's master was, quote, an old leader of the Lily clan, and Chiron of Lilies was the old leader of the Lily clan, and we know that they're, yeah, the one of the bindings is placed in the Lily clan garden. One is where the Lily clan used to be, and the other one is like at a shrine in the center of the city. So presumably it's connected to the Lily clan enough. We also found out presumably what the name of the fourth clan was, which was the clan of Oaths, of Jin of Oaths, who's a humanoid figure made in blue sparkling stone. Just kind of going off of that and guessing like what oaths might mean. Like, is it like oaths is in relation to like law? Like, were they upholders of law? Is that what their job was? Like, kind of the balancing act of, was their job relation to spirits? What was their duty in the grand scheme of these clans? That I always imagined the clans would be at war. They're never really at war. I mean, they don't work together all of the time, but they're certainly not and at odds with each other. So yeah, and I was also technically right in that the clan of Oaths technically became the band because Jin is leading the band. So like, kind of transfer of power, I guess. We found out that Inian's ability to like basically get a bunch of spells really fast makes up for, like, she in place of her having lots of spells, she can do that, like, kind of a equivalent exchange kind of thing. Like, both are useful in different situations, but that's just what she has. And Inian mentions talk of a mage state, which I assume is related to Caravia, as Caravia has been mentioned to be like a land of mages. Why would Inian be a lower caste if she's a wizard is my question, but I suppose in a mage state, wizards are like second closest to the bottom. Like, bottom is magicless. And then a wizard is like, well, not common, but not like exceptional in any manner. It would be like lowest. And then, you know, specialists, like, you know, whatever, maybe necromancers or people with like just exceptional abilities in magic, not necessarily sorcery. And then sorcerers, and then exceptional sorcerers? Or powerful sorcerers? I don't know if divine magic users would fit into a mage state. That's kind of an interesting thought. Just because, like, technically it's magic, technically it's not arcane magic, and I feel as though they would probably only really care about arcane magic. We've got the second part, the episode 99. First part, rather, of episode 99. Which was, as I said, Narn came back. Kier was a badass. Narn, I feel bad for rooting for Narn sometimes, but at the same time, they're just so cool, I can't help it. I mean, really? Like, also, they're kind of adorable, even when they're just doing the little maniacal laughter thing. It's really, really cute. Come on. Ash for... I have a thing typed up of how to describe this. Is that, like, Ash kind of connected with Narn's magic when she channeled her own? In a weird way? Like, the way that the Zeth, or at least Narn, can kind of tap into the power of the universe. In, like, the way, kind of the similar to the way, what is it, speakers do in Spell? Like, we've seen the thing that the shadow of Narn that was the shadow of the Fox King during the spell stream did the thing with the words, making them appear. Kind of in the way that they can tap into the power of the universe is kind of what she did. Except she's not really meant to do that, and like sensory overloaded. That must be a really disconcerting feeling. Like, It's like seeing into the fifth dimension, I guess. Like, you don't notice it's there. I imagine it kind of akin to, like, when you always hear about telepaths who have trouble with their powers and they accidentally just end up reading the minds of everyone and you just get lost in the roar. Because it's just like being in the midst of a crowd and everyone is screaming all the time. That episode is quite obviously titled "The Volcano of Hatred" for reasons that are extremely obvious. Yeah. Horvin also, he says he's a shaman, or at least refers to his magic as like shamanic. I don't know how to say that word. Which makes a lot of sense actually, in the sense that like the way shaman's magic works and the way paladin's magics work are not necessarily. It might be the kind of thing where you can be one but not the other, but they lie very close. Like, if you are a sorcerer, you can be a wizard, but not necessarily the other way around, I guess. Like, because shamans tap into the power of nature and the power of the spirits to draw on their magic. Well, like, paladins channel the power of God, or challenge the power of gods. So, I guess technically a paladin is like a more specialized shaman, or like, a shaman is like a more generalized paladin. Like, you could be one but not the other necessarily, or consider yourself one but not the other. Like, we know that where Ash is from has shamans, because she mentions at one point the shamans of the village. So I assume it's kind of that similar thing, drawing on the power of nature, but I don't think they'd be like paladins. I think it's more so that shamans draw on nature of their own accord, and paladins are kind of like the power of the whatever god is kind of granted to them, like whether through worship or through Eos or through title itself, just being like, yeah, I'm a paladin of this guy, which comes eventually draws back around to the what's the thing? The theory, not necessarily the theory, but the idea of golems being artificial spirit folk, because theoretically a paladin would challenge the power of gods, and while a golem isn't a god, they still require Eos to make, so theoretically, I suppose you could challenge their power and become, like, a paladin of. So, I mean, I guess that makes sense? That's all I really have to say much about the episodes. Like, a lot of stuff happened, but I was kind of hoping other people would be here to discuss things, and no. No, I'm just here. We're like 18 minutes in. Yeah. Unrelated notes, just various little off-topic things. We were discussing Narn and Narn aligning with an imp. Please imagine that, or even the rebellion imp. Like, being the leader of this imp rebellion despite not being an imp themselves, or like, just, I want to see a mixture of Narn's voice and an imp voice, and it doesn't, like, quite speak impish, but not quite English. Just, like, an amalgamation of noise that almost is understandable. Like when there's those videos where you can listen to them and it sounds like what English sounds like to other people because it's just but it's completely nonsensical. That kind of thing. Um there is also in the most recent supplement from this month mentions that nature weakens spirits. And then if you go back and listen to and if you all the stuff we're talking about binding stuff that's been brought up in the Shrouded Isles arc of the similar topic, mentions that the bindings adhere most easily to like the earth or like to natural things like stone. Like what does that imply? Is my God, why can't other people hear here? Is what I'm wondering. Like does that mean something? Do the spirit folk come from perhaps another plane? Are their powers like against the laws of the universe? Are they some weird amalgamation of otherworldly powers? What brought spirits to where they are? What kind of made them so special? because like what we know about, like hearing about the ages of magic and then hearing about the origins of tieflings, it's like everyone was magic, but then later everyone stopped being magic. But then at some point, people traded, they got abilities to help them fight the, gods that were tearing apart the countryside. So, like, how do those things tie in? Did humanity come first? Or how is humanity related to these gods? What other races are tied to these gods? Are Zeth Spiritfolk? It seems to kind of imply that they're not, especially Narn kind of laughing it off, like, yeah, that's you're so cute for thinking that kind of thing. It's kind of a dumb thing to be like thinking about theories being related to, but like I've been kind of mentally composing an honorant playlist, and in the song "Kings and Queens" by 30 Seconds to Mars, there's the line of like the children of a lesser god between heaven and hell, which kind of, I don't know, makes you consider, like, why are spirit folk divine magic users? Why does divine magic relate so poorly against arcane? But they're not like celestial. They're not the kind of thing you typically think of when you think divine. They're just creatures who are exceptional and use their divine magic in that way, even though it doesn't necessarily manifest as what you would typically think of as divine. Like normally when you think divine, you think healing and stuff like that, and then when you think arcane, you think fireballs. But like Killil is a divine magic user. She is a spirit folk, but she does the fire thing. So, I mean, who knows, right? The last thing is just like a crack theory that Inian is somehow related to the Fox King, if only because like, I don't know, man. I think I have the theory that there is someone in this universe somehow that is either like a fragment of the Fox King or is the Fox King, and we just don't know it yet. And if it were not for her being an arcane magic user, I feel like that would be like an even stronger theory, but Inian being an arcane magic user wrecks like half my theories anyway. I stand by the fact that I don't think Inian is human. I stand by that. Just so many questions, so little answers. I don't know, what else is there to talk about? I feel like there was some other things I wanted to say, but like, we're only 20 minutes in. I can't just end it with a 20-minute podcast. That's boring, but I don't want to like just keep rambling into my microphone for 10 more minutes and hope to figure something out. The second part of the episode isn't even out yet. It's just like I have to record a podcast or I'm going to feel guilty about it. So here is a podcast, I guess. I could talk about something I was saying earlier, is that like, if I didn't work on STA already, you can bet there would be so many magical girl AUs I would work on. Just like, Don't is a really good example of that. Like, I feel like she would even be good as just a protagonist, with like Killil as a mentor or Inian as a mentor. I feel like Don't and Inian would get along really well. Like, the kind of Inian's snarkiness and Don't's kind of, I don't want to say aggressiveness, but enthusiasm. Like, I feel like those two would get along either well or just adorably. Kind of a, wow, you're actually like a pig bat, that's hilarious. And Don't would be like, yes, I am, thank you. And run around and have adventures together. I don't know. I think they'd get along very well. If their voices weren't so similar, maybe. I forgot to make the joke about having Don't as my co-host, except she just doesn't talk because she's technically a stuffed animal. I'm sorry, Don't. I don't know, what else? Is there anything I talked about that I'm working on? Or anything? Well, I have a comic idea, so I might as well share it because I haven't actually drawn it yet, but I have like the references open. Is the idea of like, We know what all of the clans are now, and what all the clan leaders are like of. Chiron of Lilies, Jin of Oaths, Mirror of Gold, Tenwei of Rust. How do you even spell those names? Like, is it Meer? Is it like rhymes with Kier? Is it spelled like Kier? Is it spelled like alcohol Kier? Is it spelled like the first spelling of Kier? How do you spell that? How do you spell Tenwei? What kind of a name is Tenwei? Anyway, like something being like, Zeke does like lilies and holds out a ring, and Kirlos goes rust and holds out a ring, and Horvin goes oaths and holds out a ring, and Dow goes gold and holds out a ring, and then Colvin goes truth and punches the air, and then they all summon Allah Captain Planet. They all summon Talvillian, which would be the most anticlimactic ever, like super dramatic, transformation sequence, and just Talvillian lands on the ground and makes that weird neigh noise and runs off into the bushes, and all the flowers start blossoming behind him. Just, adorable, really anticlimactic, but really adorable. I think that's it. I'm checking all of my notes now. Just a brief note of like what would happen if two tieflings had a child but had different progenitors, like, because we know the whole tieflings, their progenitors like end up absorbing their power or whatever. Like, would that kid just be subject to what is basically like a how do I describe this? Like just like both progenitors just fighting to the death over this kid, and like, oh, this is an unfortunate turn of events, but what can you do? I guess that's why there's not many. That'd be really sad, actually, like a pair of tieflings who end up having to like kill each other or kill one of the other. Like, I guess kind of a Romeo and Juliet style thing, except with death. Like Romeo and Juliet meets Battle Royale. That would be neat. I think that is actually it now. Sorry this isn't much. I'm very sorry this isn't much. But, yeah. I didn't want to go another week without a podcast, and I wanted to be able to talk about these things because, having too many notes becomes kind of overwhelming and we don't get around to everything. But at the same time, not having other people here just means that we don't really get much elaboration on any of these things. It's just kind of me rambling into a microphone and hoping it sounds good. Like, for all we know, no one is going to hear this. So, I guess we'll see. If you'd like to listen to more episodes of the podcast, you can find us at spiritfolksaturdays.tumblr.com. If you want to join the TI Skype chat, feel free to shoot us and ask with your Skype name. We'd be happy to have you. Thanks for listening. We'll see everybody next week. Bye!